Hey everybody, I'm Jace. Welcome to my channel. In this channel, I hope to talk about sports, primarily American soccer, but since I used to work in sports, I spent 10 years working in collegiate athletics, and I still to this day do some side hustling with collegiate sports and some pro sports. I thought it'd be fun to kind of give my insights on all sports. Now, focusing on soccer, of course, because that's my favorite sport. I've been a soccer fan and played the game since 1987. I love American soccer, and I sometimes consider myself an American soccer evangelist. I want the game to grow here. I want it to be the biggest thing in the world here. And that's what I wanted my channel to be mostly about. But if you're not a big soccer fan, still stick around because there's going to be videos about baseball, basketball, football, whatever. Because like most people who's willing to put their face on the internet, I have a lot of opinions that I want to share. So I was racking my brain over what to do for my very first video, and I had written up an entire script about what a possible Division One United Soccer League would look like. And as soon as I got that done and was ready to record it, wouldn't you know, USL announced that they were doing a D1 league. So I had to put that on hold. But then I thought, well, I'll come up with something else. And in the list of various videos that I wanted to do, I wanted to tackle one of the biggest issues, air quotes issues, because I don't really think it's that big of an issue, promotion and relegation in the world of American soccer, or the lack thereof. And I thought that'll be like a 1,000 subscriber special, or maybe even a Q&A video around the time that I actually get a Patreon set up. But wouldn't you know it, the United Soccer League spoiled my plans again by announcing that they were kinda going to do promotion and relegation. So here we are. This is the first video. It's about ProRel. Sorry. So unless you live under a rock, or unless you're not a big American soccer fan, you probably know that you probably don't understand how the American soccer pyramid, such as it is set up. In the rest of the world, soccer is played on a pyramid level. Think of it in England, you have the Premier League at the very tippy top with 20 teams, and if you're bad, you finish in the bottom three, you get relegated down to the Championship, which has 20-some teams. And then it goes on down the pyramid with teams going up and down each level. If you've watched Welcome to Wrexham, you're pretty familiar with the idea of ProRel. If you've watched Sunderland Till I Die or Ted Lasso, you're probably kind of familiar with it as well. Here in the US, it's a little different. We don't have promotion relegation in any of our professional sports, and that includes soccer. I mean, if you want to squint real hard, we have promotion and relegation in things like auto racing, golf, and tennis, but in the big team sports, we just don't do it. It's a completely foreign concept here. And when Major League Soccer was founded, there was no caveat or provision to have promotion and relegation. We were just happy to get a league off the ground. A few years ago, this would have been about a decade or so ago, the United Soccer League, which is a minor league for all intents and purposes in American soccer, started building up its base. Now, it relied very heavily on MLS reserve teams when it did this, but it gained a lot of stability by doing that. And since 2013, 2014, the USL has been on an expansion spree. The MLS teams are no longer in the USL pyramid, but USL has expanded now to include not just a Division II league, the USL Championship, but a Division I league, which is professional, USL League One, and USL League Two, which is semi-pro. They've also expanded to the women's game by launching a separate Division I women's league called the USL Super League that plays over the winter, the fall to spring type calendar, and is ostensibly at the same level as the National Women's Soccer League. On the other side of things, you've got Major League Soccer, which you're probably already familiar with. This is the most established, most successful American soccer league that has ever existed. This year, 2025, they have 30 teams. They have been around for 30 years, and the greatest player of all time, Lionel Messi, plays there. But you've probably also know of some of the players that have played in MLS, like Frank Lampard, Andrea Pirlo, Gareth Bale, and of course Messi, Suarez, Busquets. But even some American legends like Josie Altidore, Landon Donovan, Clint Dempsey, Brian McBride, all played in Major League Soccer. MLS has also been on an expansion spree since about 2010 or so, and it went from nearly going out of business in 2005, 2006 to being a very successful league with, as I mentioned, 30 teams, the possibility to expand to a few more, teams playing in stadiums that rival anything that we see in Europe, stadiums that apparently make my dog itch. Sorry, he's scratching. Good boy. Stadiums that rival anything that you see in Europe, and players making millions of dollars playing the game here in the United States. But one thing that hasn't happened is promotion and relegation. That is, until maybe 2 years from now. Maybe. A few weeks ago, Paul Tenorio of The Athletic posted a story that the United Soccer League, the USL owners, had voted in a supermajority to approve promotion and relegation. And then USL made the official announcement. And this has eaten up a lot of soccer talk here in the United States. At first, I thought it was a joke. You see, the United Soccer League, USL, has been playing footsie with the topic of pro rel for a few years now, for about 8 years, if I can remember properly. Every year when Major League Soccer is doing something, whether it's the season is about to open, or they've signed a new big player, or the All-Star game is rolling around, USL does something to get some media attention. And I don't blame them. I used to also work in public relations, so I know how important media value is. It's actually 1.5 times more valuable than paid advertising. But when I first saw this, I thought, well, this isn't real. You see, in the past, it used to be that the USL GM or whoever would go to someone in the media and say, hey, we're going to talk about the possibility of forming a committee that might talk about the possibility of implementing promotion and relegation. But as soon as the news of a USL Division 1, for the purposes of this video, we're going to call it USL Premier. They've actually copyrighted that name. But for the purposes, once that came out, once that news came out, it became clear that maybe pro rel was a thing that might actually happen. And lo and behold, the owners voted for it. And the fact that it was a supermajority is big news. Keep in mind, though, that this is a supermajority of the current owners. We're going to get into that. And then, of course, media lapped it up. Every single soccer channel here on YouTube is talking about it. Heck, even the Dan Patrick Show had a segment about it. And for a league like the United Soccer League, that is huge, to get yourself out there in the media and portray yourself as trying to go up with the big boys. That's a big deal, and I wish them all the best. Now, a lot of American soccer fans fall into a few camps when it comes to promotion relegation. You've got the vast majority of American soccer fans who like the idea of pro rel, but they're kind of fine without it. They understand that it would be a huge lift in order to implement it, and their enjoyment of their local team doesn't hinge on relegating a team for one bad year. They like their team no matter what. You've got a small but vocal minority, who we're going to get into, who are crazy about pro rel. And I use that both truthfully and derogatorily, because these are the pro rel truthers. This is pro rel anon. And if you have existed in internet spaces talking about soccer, you've bumped into these people. But then you have people like me, and I will say that I'm probably in the minority of American soccer fans as well, who doesn't like the idea of promotion relegation. I think it would be a huge mistake. But I'm also a pragmatist and a realist. If new information comes along that proves me wrong, I'm willing to admit that I'm wrong. And I've always been of the mind that Pro Rel, if it happens here, will probably be a mistake, but if a league wants to try it, then go for it. Prove to me that it will work. And I still remain very dubious as to whether or not this whole USL Pro Rel thing is actually going to work for a couple of reasons. First, they haven't really come up with a plan. There's a lot of balls in the air that they're juggling here, a lot of caveats that need to happen in order for promotion and relegation to exist in the United Soccer League. First, they have to get this D1 league up and running. And minimum, they need 12 teams to play at the D1 level. So where are these teams going to come from? I'm going to do a video about USL Division 1, but there are currently a lot of teams in the championship that could move up, but that comes with the caveat of spending money on new stadiums or renting a new venue or what have you. So in order to get this D1 league up and running, they're either going to need a huge amount of investment or they're going to need significant waivers for the United States Soccer Federation in order to meet the Division 1 standard. And I don't want to debate about the Pro League standards. Just a little spoiler, I do think they're a little bit too strenuous, but I understand why they exist. The second reason that I'm kind of dubious about whether or not this is going to happen is they don't have any real plan of how they're going to implement it. Now, granted, they have 2 years, possibly 3, to get all of this ironed out. I'm not asking them to have anything concrete right now, but in a recent interview between the USL general manager, USL commissioner, and the Guardian, a lot of the questions kind of came down to, we don't know. We want to do this, but we don't know how we're going to do this. How does the Pro Rel situation work? Who gets relegated? Is it going to be on a combined standings of 3 years, kind of like how they used to do in Mexico? Will there be a playoff between the bottom team in the USL Premier League and the top team in the USL Championship, which, frankly, I think would be kind of cool, and I wish the Premier League actually would do that too. But are they going to do that? The answer is they don't know. The owners actually voted not to necessarily implement Pro Rel, but to get the process started. It's sort of, I have the concepts of a plan rather than an actual plan. And the third reason that I think it's kind of unlikely, or at least 50-50, whether or not this promotion relegation plan actually gets off the ground, actually boils down to just plain money. I know that if you delve into soccer circles as much as I have, you're going to run across this idea that soccer is not a business. And get on YouTube and just look at British people talking about American soccer. They will act like American soccer is this huge capitalistic animal vampire squid that is just sucking the life out of the game, while turning a blind eye to teams in their own country being owned by the sovereign wealth funds of oil countries that have very bad human rights records. There's a blind eye to it. Professional sports are a business, whether you like it or not. And as much as I would love for every single community to have their version of the Green Bay Packers, that ship has sailed. It has sailed and gone to a completely different planet. And in order to get a professional sports team, you need money. And you need people with money to put money behind it. Because it is not like opening up a coffee shop in your town. It is a hugely expensive endeavor by which you're not going to necessarily see profits for 10 years or more. My biggest question is this: how much is it going to cost to get into Division 1? And what happens if you get relegated? You see, using the Premier League as an example, the teams that get relegated get a big golden parachute, basically a bribe to go away quietly and go back down to the championship. And some teams, Norwich, have been able to turn this into their entire business model. Going up, getting some Premier League TV money, going back down, getting their big old go-away payment, and then having a competitive advantage over the championship, which allows them to continue to yo-yo. That is what the entire English Premier pyramid is chasing, that Premier League TV money. But here in the US, we don't have that. MLS signed a deal with Apple TV worth $250 million a year. That is more than any other American soccer league has ever gotten. And as someone who has actually sat in media rights negotiations, it's very, very hard for me to believe that USL is going to be able to sit down with CBS and say, hey, we want $250 million a year, but get this, our one team in our biggest market, Louisville, which has the nicest stadium and the most success, they might get relegated and replaced by a team from Tulsa. So we're losing the 40th something market for the 50th something market. Is that really going to work? I don't know. I'm very skeptical of that. Then there's the expansion fee thing. As much as people like to deride MLS with its expansion fees, most recently San Diego paying $500 million to enter the league, which compared to other American sports leagues is still a heck of a deal, USL is a franchise model. You pay a franchise fee. And most recently, the franchise fee to enter Division II was $20 million. Keep in mind that if you're currently a Division II team, in order to be Division I, you now need a stadium that's 15,000 or so. A good stadium in the United States is going to run you, I don't know, $50 to $100 million, depending on how many bells and whistles you want to put into it. Sure, you can build a temporary stadium like what Inter Miami is playing in right now, but that's not really a long-term investment. There's a reason why Inter Miami is playing in a temporary stadium. They needed a place to play until the new place was built. So think about this. Let's say I'm an investor in Baltimore, which is a very large city that currently does not have any professional men's soccer to speak of. If I'm wrong, please put it down in the comments. But I want to join USL. And because I'm in Baltimore and it's a large city, I could probably go right into Division I. For the sake of this argument, let's just say that the expansion fee for the USL Premier League, not the Championship, Premier League, is $30 million. Great. I have that. I can write a check and move up. But now I also have to pay player wages at a Division I level, not minor league, mind you. We're going up against MLS. So I'm going to need to be able to show that I'm competing with DC United and with New England Revolution and Philadelphia Union. So I'm going to have to pay a similar wage. I'm going to have to pay USL wages or MLS style wages. I'm going to then have to invest in a stadium. Now, I could rent the stadium where the Baltimore Ravens play for thousands of dollars a game, or I can build one, and as I mentioned before, that's going to cost me $50 million. So just to get started up, not even paying the players, I might be $80 to $100 million in the hole. What happens if I'm starting in Premier League and then I have a bad year? Maybe my center attacking mid blows out their knee and we can't afford to replace them. How am I going to feel then if a team that paid, I don't know, $5 million just to join USL League One has moved up the ranks and replaces me in the Premier League? Does USL have a big enough parachute payment to get me to shut up and go away? I don't know. This is a big, big ask that they're going to be asking owners. And yes, the current owners voted to start this process, but in order to get this up and running, you're going to need more owners. And you may not be getting the owners that are cool with going back down. Just something to think about. There's also the fact that USL is not in any way, shape, or form a stable league. Every single year, USL loses a team, whether it's the Fresno Foxes or Memphis, or teams go on hiatus like Oklahoma City, or teams don't launch like Brooklyn FC. Teams have trouble staying in USL. Sometimes teams self-relegate. The Richmond Kickers, for instance, self-relegated down to Division USL League One, so the third division. Sometimes teams bounce up and down. I think the Carolina Railhawks have done, well, North Carolina FC, but whatever. Long live the Railhawks. They've gone up and down as well. So for every Louisville city that is a resounding success, you have a Fresno Foxes or another team that's gone out of business. There is something that I am curious about. Pro-Rel-Anon. Look, I do use the term as an insult. As I said, if you've been anywhere in American soccer circles over the years, you've bumped into these people. And these are the people that will see every single thing that the United States does in soccer as some sort of vast conspiracy between Soccer United Marketing, Major League Soccer, and the United States Soccer Federation. All is some sort of weird, convoluted, evil conspiracy to prevent soccer from being popular in the United States. Despite the fact that we have like the third or fourth most attended league in the world, they don't want it to be popular. And that in their world, there are millions of mostly middle-aged white guys who are just chomping at the bit to become as rowdy and intense fans as a Bundesliga Ultras section. But the only thing keeping them from really jumping on board is if the Chicago Fire can get kicked out of the league because their star striker blew his knee out, and Billings, Montana could maybe one day possibly win MLS Cup. It doesn't make sense, but these people do exist, and they are super annoying to the point where I try not to even talk about Pro-Rel with anybody because they have poisoned the well and turned the topic into the third rail of American soccer. And I wonder something, because a lot of these people are just anti-MLS. There's always something with them. It's that MLS plays at the wrong time of year by playing in the summer. It's that MLS has salary caps and other leagues don't. It's that MLS doesn't have Pro-Rel. It's always some excuse. I'm interested to see how these people react. Some of them I've seen be super hypocritical about this, because let's be perfectly honest. If you're excited about USL starting a promotion and relegation ladder within itself, that's not proper Pro-Rel, is it? No, it's not. It's not the United States Soccer Federation coming in and dictating what must happen. No, it's USL doing its own thing and its own ladder. MLS is over here doing its own thing. NWSL is over here doing its own thing. And I've seen some of the Pro-Rel-Anon people get really excited about this as sort of a hypocrisy that they're displaying. But some, I'm wondering if they're going to have a problem with this. And once it starts running, are they going to move the goalposts yet again? I don't know. At the end of the day, I hope this is successful. I really do. Even though I don't think it's a good idea, I want soccer to thrive in the United States. And if the alternative to this not being successful is probably teams going out of business. And no one needs that, especially the USL. So, with that said, tell me what you think. Leave a comment below, like, share, and subscribe. I hope you liked my first video. I've got some more things in the hopper that are a little less intense than this. So until next time, I'm Jace. Have fun at the game.